Hello Kerry, aren't you doing Readathon in March? Yes. Aren't you also reading the books from the Women's Prize longlist? Yes. Do you need another readathon right now? Yes. And let me tell you for why. So I'm going to take part in the Trans Rights Readathon, which starts on the 21st of March and runs through to the end of the month. So it's a full 2 weeks leading up to and celebrating the International Day of Trans Visibility, which is on the 31st of March. Now we are thick into Women's Prize for Fiction season, but this year's longlist has come with a degree of controversy. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie has been longlisted for her book Dream Count, and whether the Women's Prize for Fiction and the judges this year were right to longlist her has been the topic of much discussion. The reasons for that are her opinions expressed around the trans and non-binary community and her public support of J.K. Rowling. Now, I know that people have felt a lot of frustration that this discourse and controversy has pulled focus from the purpose of the prize, which is to celebrate and centre women writing fiction. But I, for one, have really welcomed it because I was pretty ignorant about it before. The eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed that Dream Count was actually one of the books that I considered for my wish list this year, not knowing much about the author's history and backstory. Now, I think that the Women's Prize for Fiction longlisting this particular author is nailing their colours to the mast on where they stand on this issue, and so I want to do the same. I think it's important to say things with your chest, and so I am here to say that I am in support of the trans and non-binary community. You are very, very much loved and valued here in this space. And so my response to the Women's Prize for Fiction longlist on this particular issue is to take part in the Trans Rights Readathon, which is conveniently happening at the end of this month. I will make sure to link to the Trans Rights Readathon webpage down below if you want to see more information about it. They have got prompts, but personally, weaving it in with all the other reading commitments that I've got this month, I have just scoured my shelves and my wish list. I've made a couple of purchases and I've picked up a handful of books by trans and non-binary and a-binary authors. So let me tell you about my pile of possibilities, if you will, because it's not likely that I'll get to all of these. But trans rights are for all year round, not just in the lead up to International Day of Trans Visibility. So the first book on my list is In My Mind's Eye by Jan Morris. Happily, I was already reading this for Readathon because Jan is a Welsh author. So that was very convenient. This is a really delightful collection of diary entries. Jan has documented 188 days, I think, and this is just such a delight to read. I'm dipping in and out of it. I'm trying to read it throughout the course of the month, and every day it's just a page or two of a specific kind of like thought worm or brain worm that she's encountered that day, and some of it is really mundane and some of it is really profound and some of it is both of those things, but it's really very beautiful and her writing is exceptional. So I'm so pleased to have discovered this author, and will definitely be looking to pick up more from her in the future too. So this is lovely. The next option I have is The Call Out by Cat Fitzpatrick. This sounds like an absolute riot. It's a retelling of Eugene Onegin, but instead of like Russian aristocracy, we've got trans and queer community. And it's all about their having a great time in Brooklyn, visiting all the fixtures of fashionable 21st century queer society, picnics, literary readings, health conferences, drag shows, punk houses, community accountability processes, grinder hookups, and so on. And instead of pistols at dawn, like in Eugene Onegin, we've got the public call out online. And that's what this book is. It's also written in verse, which I think is going to be an absolutely brilliant time. So this is quite high up on my priority reading list. A book that I've had on my radar for quite some time is Lote by Shola von Reinhold. This is about a young artist kind of obsessed with the 1920s. She comes across a community of people living in a really small town. It gets a bit secret society-ish, and I think this is about her kind of like using art to like keep reinventing herself. It's described as an absorbing meditation on Black artistic expression. I think it sounds brilliant, so that's another really great contender. The next book I have, again, has been on my radar for quite some time, and that's Lude by Morrison. This is about a murderous drag queen, and I have nothing more to say because that was all I needed to hear. I think it sounds like a really good time. It's quite chunky. So I hope it's really engaging. It's also described as comic, and I'm really enjoying books with a bit of humour about them at the moment. So I think this sounds bloody marvellous. Next up, I have My Volcano by John Elizabeth Stintzi. This is a pre-apocalyptic book where a volcano basically pops up in Central Park, and that is one of several kind of odd phenomena that start happening around the world. I think the thing that really grabbed me about this one is where it says, "My volcano sets the mythic and absurd against the starkly realistic, attempting to portray what it feels like to live in a burning world stricken numb." And I think that feels really topical right now. And last but not least, I have a collection of poems which has been sat lingering on my wish list for an awful long time. This is Like a Tree Walking by Vahni, Capildeo. I can see from flicking through the pages that it does some really interesting things with form, which I quite enjoy, and it's been a while since I've read a poetry collection, so I will look forward to trying this out. So that's my collection, my options for the Trans Rights Readathon. If you're taking part in this too, let me know, but I hope you're looking after yourself, and I will see you again in the next video.